Hey YouTube, let's talk depth here, let's catch up on this stuff, let's get it going. I was posting monthly updates to my depth year all the way through, I think, August, and then suddenly I fell off of that, and it had a mix of reasons. One, I was filming for Youtober and I was just like, I don't have time to squeeze in all of these along with Youtober, between pre-filming and then trying to get the videos out with editing. It just wasn't gonna happen. And two, there were some hiccups, so we're going to address those. Now, I have definitely fallen off my depth year a little bit here, and so I'm gonna give you a couple of my excuses. And also, I feel like in some ways valid reasons, because the whole concept of challenges, especially depth year, one of the things is to really take a deep look into your life and, you know, find the depth. Where is it that you want depth? Where is it that you want more expansion with certain things? And because you just haven't made it a priority before, it slipped by. And with that, I think, comes a lot of self-realization, and then maybe realizing, hey, maybe I don't need to be in depth in this thing. I got one deep enough as I needed to. Maybe I don't need to go any further. Or maybe, crap, if you fall off for a little second, maybe you really do want to go in depth to something. So for me, it kind of started, I wanted to go in depth and make sure that I was using all of the things that I had, clothes, witchcraft supplies, food, all of that thing to its fullest, and really focusing on what I already had so that I felt abundance. That was kind of one of my main goals in my depth year. There was some topics of going into mythology and knowledge of certain basics, energetic work, etc. and so forth, really diving into the books I currently have and seeing what they had to teach me. Even if they were all one-on-one books, it didn't matter. I was like, I want to really dive into these concepts and see, is there something else I can pull from? Is there something else I can really commit to with these? And that worked for a while, except for the fact that one of the things I try to do in my life a lot is not take on too much at one time. I've seen many times my friends make a shit ton of shifts in their life all at once, and that just causes you to have a stress bubble, and we don't want those. Occasional stress is okay. Constant stress bubble of a year's worth of time because you took on too much at one point, we don't need to be doing that. So I realized when I started the depth year, thinking this would be a great way to start off my time in Portland, is really dive deep into Portland, dive deep into all the things I currently have so I can like manage my finances and really appreciate every small thing that I have in my life and really bring it in. It'll be great. Not necessarily, and that is because when you make a major change, there is going to be a transition period, and a lot of transition things pop up that you weren't necessarily expecting. One, I had to buy a few things for my apartment, but I already kind of wrote that into the depth here. I was like, that's fine. Two, experiencing a new place, you of course want to explore it, and unfortunately in our society a lot of exploration takes money, whether that's just spending money at restaurants, meeting new people, and of course they want to go out and like do things that probably cost money. Even just traveling to places, unless I'm walking, which I did a lot more walking since moving here, but overall it takes some time and some money. And while I allowed for experiences to be a part of my depth year, I ended up having so many experiences because that was it, that I wasn't appreciating the things I had at home at all, right? I was not focused on having a luxury, and I realized that pretty soon. And overall, I kept just kind of like jumping from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing to be in depth about it, as opposed to spreading the depth, if that makes sense. Like, I dove really in depth to exploring Portland. First it was getting my apartment ready, then it was exploring Portland, then it turned into in-depth experiences with my new friends, then it turned into in-depth fitness, and then it turned into in-depth. And so in the section I was currently focused, I allowed myself to kind of be willy-nilly with the spending, because, well, it's in the name of the depth of this particular thing that I really want to focus on this moment. This should be fine. No. Because eventually what that led me to realize is, when something comes up that is necessary to replace, but it wasn't on the main thing that I had been kind of like fully committed to for a little while, then it turns into, well, I still need to spend on this because I need to replace it, which was a part of my depth year. But then that started to spiral. So that started eventually with, I have no warm clothes. From living in Arizona, I had a couple of things, but not nearly enough for a climate that isn't, you know, 75 or above most of the damn year, if not into the hundreds. And even the warm clothes that I had were not real warm clothes. Like, it's, if you've ever been to two separate major climates, you will know that if you go and buy a sweater in, say, like Arizona, it looks like a sweater, it acts like a sweater, but it is so thin that the wind can go right fucking through it. Half the sweaters are pretty much almost sheer sometimes. Like, it's not really a sweater at all for warmth. It is just for style. And in trying to put that sweater on in a place where you need warmth is just And I remember having all those things because I grew up in the Midwest. Those Midwestern winters will kill you if you aren't properly thick sweater life. And then when I moved to California and then moved out to Arizona, like, slowly but surely all those things had left my closet. I had like maybe 2 things that were actually appropriate winter slash, I guess, early spring fall weather here in Portland. Slowly but surely I started to acquire those things because, like, I just need something to feel warm, which then spiraled into things that I didn't necessarily need but wanted. Same thing happened with my makeup collection. I realized at a certain point, because I was trying to like basically go through all of it and just only replace what I had, and then I hit a point with some of my products where I realized, oh, this is burning my skin, this isn't right, not good. Like, there's still product left, but it's expired, it's dangerous, get rid of it. So I started doing that and being like, well, I still need eyeshadows that don't burn my eyelids, and I still need sunscreen, and I still, you know, there's certain things, and I'm like, oh, I told myself I could replace it, so I could replace it. So I replaced one thing, and then I got a backup. And it spiraled for a little bit. I cut myself off pretty quick. Same thing with like the clothes. I cut myself off pretty quick as I realized what was happening. I think that's one of the things that overall is very interesting, because I had focused too much of my depth on just one thing, and then I felt like I was sacrificing so much else in my other life, and then something over here would break down. The makeup would start burning my face. The clothes were not warm enough. I really wanted to work out, but I had no workout clothes. I had to go buy a bunch of those, and then eventually was like, you don't need that many leggings, Sam, calm down. And just that kind of just kept spiraling. And by the time October came around, I was so done with being in depth about most things. I was kind of like, screw it, like, I want to be in depth about fall now. Like, I want to dive into the fall spirit again. I want to walk around when the trees are changing and, you know, spend time in nature. Free, perfectly fine, go do that. But I wanted to buy a whole bunch of really fall festive foods on my own, whether people were with me or not. That was not a part of my depth here. I wanted to buy warm fall clothes, which I already had kind of bought from moving here in the wintertime. I didn't really need to buy something that was just a little more orange, but this was cute. I wanted it. So I did. At the end of it, I thought, I was like, well, crap, I've really fallen all the way fucking off this depth here. Other than books and witchcraft supplies, I literally have not stayed on it in any other field like I had planned to. That was something that was like, well, maybe I should just throw in the towel then. Maybe I should just say I tried it for a full year, but it didn't work out. Screw it. Let's just go back to the way things are. But that didn't feel necessarily genuine either, because I realized that I was deeply appreciating the things that I was purchasing. I have worn this sweater a shit ton more than I have worn a lot of other pieces of clothing that I own in the past that I just bought willy-nilly. I also thought really hard about the things I was purchasing, right? Like, when I bought a new eyeshadow palette, I didn't just buy one that was, oh, that looks pretty and cool, and I kind of like those colors, and I kind of like that brand. Instead, I watched a shit ton of reviews and was like, what are the colors that I really want to lean into wearing more? And I was like, oh, I want more oranges and reds, and, you know, I kind of want some more sparkles and stuff again. Like, I looked into what I wanted. It was much more curated purchase, I guess, than carefully selected, I should say, instead of kind of going willy-nilly with stuff. Same thing with the workout gear I bought and with the foods I was buying. I was very specific, kind of going overboard on specifically fall foods, but I enjoyed them. I was trying new things. I made sure to finish them all. I think honestly that's kind of what the depth here is. I don't think I ever want to quote unquote limit my life into such an extent that I feel trapped in it, but I do like the effect that it has had so far on that. I am way more analytical, and easily I can think through the purchases that I make now. It doesn't feel like a struggle. It doesn't feel like I have to constantly stop myself. Instead, it's like I find myself putting something onto an online cart and then clicking away, because I'm like, But do I really want that? Like, that thought pops into my head a lot. There are a lot of things now where I'm like, oh, okay, cool. The things I've bought are items that I'm going to use a lot of. I'm still keeping also a checklist. I bought a few t-shirts several months ago, and I was keeping a log at the time of how often I had worn them to see if I could, if their purchase, because it was a higher purchase point than I normally would for a t-shirt, I was like, okay, well, if I wear this many times, then it is worth it now, because I had, the cost per wear was way lower. And I've kept that up with this sweater along with a couple of others. And there's some items that I bought not that long ago that I'm currently looking at in my closet, and I'm like, okay, cool. Some of them are for, like, I know when winter comes around. I had a sweater, maybe two, that I was like non-stop wearing when I first moved here to Portland in February. Like, I just wore them over and over and over again, to the point where it's like I needed to wash them, but I was like, but it's cold and I have nothing to wear if I wash this. Like, I was just draped in blankets while waiting for the laundry to finish. So I bought some more sweaters and stuff like that. 2 hoodies, a thicker knit sweater. My closet's open right now, I'm staring at it. There's something else. Oh, there was like a somewhat nicey dressier top. So far I don't necessarily, I see it as like a partial fail-ish. But I think the lesson that I took out from it, as I kind of said in the beginning of the video, is something that's kind of really important, at least for me, when it came to the depth years, realizing that, hey, focusing solely on one thing and making something only about one thing is fine. But if it ever gets to the point where I suddenly feel like I should extend the depth to all of the pillars of my life, you know? It's about balancing the fitness and the art and the witchcraft and time with family and friends all at once. And it's okay if there's a little bit tipping a balance, but I should try to at least somewhat keep a balance on all of these things, and shouldn't feel guilty if I suddenly go outside of the rules of one little section, because in the moment that makes sense, as long as it's still a well thought out purchase. Because even though I have broken the rules of purchasing things in a certain sense, the fact that every single one of them was extremely well thought out and used, I think is very interesting. Like, I think I've gone through, what is it? I've gone through, like, all my cover up went through pretty quickly. And my foundations, foundation was one of the things that started burning my face, and I was like, I need to throw this away and get a new one. And I did the research with the foundation and the cover up, but the foundation, I've pretty much found a couple that I really liked, much issue, and then I used them up, and then I've now started to like repurchase specific things that I like. But when it came to the cover-ups, I did the research, I found a brand, I was like, I don't like this, but I still used all of it to make sure it wasn't just like a one-off thing. I was like, no, I don't like this product. And it took about 2-3 months to use it all, but I did, and okay, well, now I'm not gonna buy that again. And the fact that I did that, as opposed to just being like, yeah, you'll just sit here now in my cabinet forever and be annoying until I realize I should use all of you. The fact that I used it all up before I allowed myself to go out and buy something else that worked. One, kind of invented me to use makeup in a different way, and two, it was just very exciting to then finally buy a new product. And I was like, oh, I don't like this for this reason. I went in depth about the makeup because I researched it. Why did I like this thing more? What was the issue with this? I've noticed that with my books too. There's a certain level of language that I found when I've read specific books on the occult and whatever. Like, I still want to finish certain books, even though they're really hard for me to finish on my bookshelf. I'm kind of juggling between there might be some books that just need to be donated, like I'm never going to finish them type of deal. But when it comes to books, I've now realized there's a certain way of writing a voice that certain writers use that I very much appreciate, and I retain information so much better. So now when I even just kind of browse books here or there without any intentions to purchase, because that's the one I haven't broken yet, so I'm sticking really firmly to it, I'm really conscious of browsing and being like, I would never purchase this book here because the language it's written with is just not, or I guess I should say language, because they're all in English. It's just not of a certain vernacular, I guess. You know, the words they use, how they speak, how they put the sentences together, just some ways really help me to retain information, and the ways are just too in-depth or they're too casual. Like, there's this weird middle ground of speech that I really enjoy, this very blunt, to the point but with like a little bit of embellishment, but not too much. I don't know, I can't really describe it, but I really enjoy a specific type of writing now. And now that I know that, I'll be very conscious of that when purchasing books. It won't be just on the topic, it's also how it's written. So I now know that about my in-depth in reading, so I know it's been very interesting. So this is a very quick, I guess, update. I mean, it's kind of long, as you can see from the video length, but that is how I am with my depth year so far. How are y'all doing if you are about the depth year? Have you entirely fallen off it? Are you doing it? Is it something you might think of for 2020? I do want to do another depth year update in December, one last one to kind of wrap up my full year of it, but so far that's kind of what I'm doing, and I want to do kind of like a review of what I said in the first video all the way to see how I am in about a month's time and really see what things I pulled up from it and what things I failed at within it as well. So anyway, I make new videos every single week, and comments, all the stuff, anything that is brought up for you down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.